to see the best
Cool.
quality.
All right, we
Nice.
should be
Very
live.
nice.
I think we're live now.
Yeah, it says we're live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Live.
Make sure everything is going. And this is say over here it's saying it's waiting on me. But it should be live.
Yeah, it should be. Here, let me check YouTube.
Yeah. Growing pains, you know?
I know how it feels, man. The first couple times I tried to stream, it was hell.
Yeah. All right, I think we're going now.
Yep, it's live.
All right, yep, it is live now.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And our Batman's here.
Hello.
Welcome.
Oh, the circles.
How are you doing today, buddy?
I am kind of working, but I can work and talk at the same time. So how wonderful is that?
Going with circles today.
That was kind of a big thing in Comic Wreath Crusaders stream the other day. We had too many jokes from that.
Yeah, we had, let's see, let me move things around a little bit here. Since this is more of a fireside chat, go with the fireside chat background. Talking about role-playing games here today.
I am in both a comfortable and uncomfortable predicament right now. I don't know why, but I've just decided to chill under my desk, and it's quite comfortable, but also uncomfortable down here at the same time. And if you're asking why am I under a desk, it's so I can have better sound quality.
Oh, okay. Got
And so you
That
guys
makes sense.
will probably not hear other background noises because I have to share a room with my sibling, which is very cringe. What 17 and 19-year-old have to be sharing a room? How cringe.
Yeah. Hey, you're lucky.
Yeah.
It'd be worse.
How does my sound quality sound?
It sounds like sound.
It sounds like sound. Good. That's exactly
I am
what I
now
was
in a very comfortable position, except for having a shelf that I've not been bothered to put up on the wall, stabbing into my ribcage. But it's also acting as an armrest, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, that's about right. But not. We're going to be talking about something simple today: tabletop role-playing games, and how for a lot of geeks, that's one of the gateways into geekhood. Okay, we started. Most people start with Dungeons and Dragons when they get into role-playing games because that's what everybody knows about, right? Is Dungeons and Dragons.
It's the basic bitch, but also the best bitch.
Yes. Now, I've played. I still remember what got me started in Dungeons and Dragons was in junior high school. One of the guys would bring the books with him to school and share them with me because we both drew. And we would look at these books, look at the artwork in them, and then it would inspire us to draw other stuff. And of course, being a curious person, I would read the books. And this was about the time the Satanic Panic hit, where we had.
Wait, did you say Satanic or Titanic?
Satanic.
Because of your age, it could be either one.
Yes, it could. Well, it was the Great Satanic Panic, as we referred to it, because for some reason, the fundamentalists felt that it was worshiping Satan, even though that was not in there at all. Kind of like what they did when Harry Potter came out saying that it was worshiping Satan in the Harry Potter books.
How's Harry Potter worshipping Satan?
Because they used the term witches and witchcraft and wizards and stuff of this nature. Yeah. Some of these people don't get the fact that and God exists in all things. They just want to focus on the line in the Bible of "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," not realizing the fact that that was the translation that King James picked out of a whole bunch of different translations of the possible word that it could have been. That's one of the reasons why I get aggravated when you see people shaking a copy of the King James version of the Bible around and say, if you don't believe what I tell you this here believes, you're going to burn in hell and damnations, because they don't know what it's actually said. You know, they don't know what the words actually were a lot of times. It's one of the reasons why I use the most accurate translation books that I can find, so I can actually read what the people were saying back then and have it translated to what we can understand today. It's like so many people keep saying that Jesus was a carpenter. No, he was a handyman. John, his earthly father was a handyman. He wasn't a carpenter. He was able to do it all. He was able to build houses from scratch, be it with masonry, be it with wood, or whatever. That was what he was. Now, it's frustrating because growing up, a lot of the issues I had with the Bible growing up came from the fact the translations just did not feel right to me. But when the Great Satanic Panic happened, that's what caused me to greatly distrust the Southern Baptist, because I had read these Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game books, and I saw none of this satanic worship stuff in them at all. And we're sitting there in church, is this guy that the church had invited to come and talk about it, came into the church and was sitting there giving his spiel, and I'm sitting beside my mom and I'm whispering to her saying, Mom, that's not in the books at all.
Yeah.
And she kept going, shh, hush, hush. I'm like, but Mom, that's not in the books. He's lying. And people were staring at me as I was whispering this into my mom's ear, and she was getting frustrated. And then the guy looks over at me and says, have you read these evil demon worshiping books? And I'm like, yes, I've read them, but what you're saying is in them is not there. That's not in the books. See, it's reached even all the way out here. Satan's touched your own congregation. And it was one of those things of where I'm like, but you're telling a lie. That's not in the books. That's just not there. And on the way back home, Mom and Dad were giving me the stink eye and upset with me. And I said, but you've always told me, read it for yourself before you take somebody else's word for it. And Mom and Dad looked at each other and said, well, he's right. We have been teaching him that. And so the next day, all the way
you're roboting a little bit
to Asheville to go buy home. You know, they opened up the box set, laid it out on the kitchen table, and they started reading it. And by the time they got finished with it, they said that I was right. That none of the stuff that this wandering preacher that was telling everybody just how evil and satanic Dungeons and Dragons was lying through his teeth, because none of what he said was in any of the books that we were reading. So they called our pastor, had him come over and let him read it all. And Pastor Bruce Bradley, he loved to argue. This dude loved to argue. But when he got done reading the stuff, he's like, they lied to us. And one thing you didn't do was lie to him. And so what did he do? That Sunday when we went to church, the entirety of the sermon was giving false testimony and false witness in a church. And he held up the box set of the Dungeons and Dragons stuff that Mom and Dad had bought. And they gave it to me afterwards, but he was using it as a prop at that moment, saying, I've read this. I've read everything in this box set, in this box here, of Dungeons and Dragons, and none of what that man came and told you is true.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's true.
he went off on it. And it wasn't that long after that that the congregation there, which was a whole bunch of insular, closed-minded bigots, started to work at getting him and his family out of the community and out of the pulpit. And which is one of the reasons why I don't much care for Southern Baptist, is because I witnessed that closed-minded bigotry.
Yeah.
And I watched as that church went from feeling like God was there with us to it becoming cult-like. It did. It became very cult-like. And the preacher that replaced him was everything that this church, the old biddies of the church loved, which was a hypocrite. This dude made the Pharisees look pious, because in his own personal life, this dude was into some pretty nasty shit. And his kids, when they were at church and at home, they acted all goody and everything.
Of course,
but once they got on the school bus, the girl, she would jack her skirt, which was just below knee length, to jack it up to almost to her cooch. The boy acted like he could get away with murder because he was a preacher's son and he just wouldn't do bad stuff. And the dude he stole, he lied. I mean, the only thing the little brat didn't do was smoke cigarettes.
Fair.
So I think that was more had to do with the fact that he didn't want to smell like cigarettes when he got home. But they got into all kinds of trouble at school, and everybody knew, oh, those are preacher kids. You know, there ain't much we can do about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we stopped going to that church after a while, and this was after the fact that my father set up the shut-in ministry, where he would tape record all the sermons and then take the tapes to the shut-in so they would be able to listen into it. And no, not feet in the freezer, man. Food. I meant food. But no, but like I said, it was insane, the Great Satanic Panic back then. But that helped cause a lot of the issues that a lot of geeks had when it came to role-playing back then.
Yeah.
And there were other role-playing games that I really enjoyed back then that TSR put out. One of those was Star Frontiers, if you've never heard of it. Star Frontiers was a sci-fi RPG. It was not super sci-fi or science fantasy. It was sci-fi. Ships only had artificial gravity when they were in movement. Kind of like The Expanse. That's how ships were built in that game. You know, the whole concept of being a building or a tower flying through space. That was how the ships were built. Spelljammer, which was the fantasy space game, which used magic to apply the space trades. That was pretty fun for Dungeons and Dragons setting. My favorite Dungeons and Dragons setting, of course, was Dragonlance, but closely followed by the Forgotten Realms. Greenwood's work on the Forgotten Realms is really good, but I just love Tracy Hickman and Wes's Dragonlance. That was just my favorite. That was my jam. But there was also Traveler. That was the first sci-fi game that came out back then by Games Workshop, or was it Games Designer Workshop? It's been so long ago, I fully remember, but it was set 1,000 years in a couple of thousand years in the future. And then when BattleTech came out, which was 1,000 years of armored warfare, which was a really good game, I discovered one of the books for it at a secondhand store, and I love the artwork in it that was done by David Dietrich. David Dietrich was a well-known artist back then who did a lot of work of character design work in a lot of sci-fi RPGs.
Isn't BattleTech where Jetfire, like the original Jetfire toy, came from? From Transformers?
I
Transformers, robots in disguise.
don't think so. BattleTech, when BattleTech
Go ahead.
first came out, it was known as Battle Droid. Acting up again.
Ah, yes, Battle Droid.
Yes, Battle Droids was what it first came out as, and George Lucas threatened to sue them if they didn't change the name from Droids because he had trademarked and copyrighted the term droid for Star Wars. So they changed the name from Battle Droids to BattleTech, and the name of the mecha became Battle Mechs. And they had the whole idea for novels and a strategy game and everything else. They just needed artwork for it. And the guys that created it was in Japan at an anime convention, and they saw all these big stompy mecha.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, these are perfect for what we need. And so they bought the rights to use the images of various mecha from these different anime. Amongst them was Macross, which became known as Robotech.
I just looked that up. Macross is where Jetfire came from.
Yeah.
Damn.
Okay. They that's where they first. And the messed up thing is the BattleTech people had the contracts before Harmony Gold did. And every time Harmony Gold would take them to court to try to stop them from using these images, BattleTech kept winning the stuff, but Harmony Gold kept taking them to court and taking them to court and taking them to court. And at one time, BattleTech was so popular, it had its own cartoon show.
Yeah.
They had
I remember what they had in the 90s. They actually had a revival of the show as well. I remember watching that.
Yes, and they also had they had a toy line that they had started
Yeah,
up.
I had all those toys there. They were awesome.
They had something called the BattleTech Centers, which is where you could go and climb into battle mech simulators and be able to fight others in BattleTech simulators all across the planet.
That's awesome! Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You think?
And I mean, getting to play in these little tournaments that they had at the BattleTech centers, you were playing against people in Germany, France, the UK. I mean,
Mars.
Mars.
Japan. It was really cool, you know, and it just was. I mean, they were going gangbusters.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like something we need today.
Yeah, and the company that put BattleTech out was called FASA, and FASA had done some other role-playing games as well. They had the license to produce the first Star Trek role-playing game. They produced the first Doctor Who role-playing game. They did Renegade Legion, Shadowrun, Earth Dawn, if I remember right. It's been so long. But yeah, Earth Dawn was supposed to be part of the Shadowrun universe, if I remember right. But they had all this stuff that they were putting out. They got so big, they purchased Ralpartha, which was the biggest miniature making company at the time. because BattleTech was all about the miniatures game. And the miniatures back then were made out of lead, and oh my God, were they easy to work with and modify.
I remember getting the Voltron that was made completely out of die-cast. It could have killed somebody if I threw it at their head. I love that toy so much.
Sounds like a upside.
Yeah.
Yep. But at the time, one of the lasting influences of the Great Satanic Panic got utilized to get rid of the lead miniatures market. They utilized saying that lead was a toxic waste material being shipped across state lines. So Congress passed laws about that. There was a couple of miniature companies that was able to get around this by selling their lead miniatures pre-primed. That way, the lead was sealed up under a coat of primer.
Yeah.
And those guys were the ones that put out the miniatures for the Middle Earth role-playing game, which was the Lord of the Rings role-playing game back then. And their miniatures were so gorgeous. I had a couple of $1,000s worth of their miniatures.
Yeah.
Because their elf miniatures were gorgeous. They were tall, lithe, like the trees they sprang from. They were gorgeous miniatures. And their dwarves they looked pretty badass. So yeah, I bought whatever instead of buying the Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, I was buying Lord of the Rings miniatures and playing with and using those as my miniatures when I played Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not gonna lie, that's what I did because those miniatures just look so awesome. But anyway, Harmony Gold kept taking they kept shopping for a court that would give them the victory they needed because they just kept running the Robotech stuff into the ground and they weren't making the money that they really could have been making if they would have just focused on making good product instead of taking FASA to court every time they turned around.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening in the miniatures market, it got so bad that the miniatures markets decided they were going to stop using lead and go to pewter. And pewter, even back then, especially back then, pewter was hard to work with in miniatures because you could super glue the bejesus out of them, but the limbs would keep falling off after a few times using it, you know?
Yeah. Pewter, it's very malleable. So any bend at all, it starts to wear and it'll break.
Yeah, and that part had a great effect on a lot of the miniatures. Why do you think that they invested in plastic miniatures now?
Yeah.
Getting almost all the miniatures that you're seeing coming out are either 3D printed, plastic, or there's still pewter that's coming out. It's just the fact that I just have that feeling. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I like the weight of the pewter, but like I said, it's very malleable. So any tiny bends that you get on an arm or even a head, I mean, that thing is gone like within a week. So I like plastic, especially the new 3D printed stuff that they use. They have like ABS plastic, very strong, durable plastics, and even if it breaks, you can just super glue it back together if it comes to that. But with the pewter, you can't just super glue it back because it bends and it pulls and it stretches that metal, so you can't ever get it back the way it was.
Yeah.
It's aggravating whenever you come right down to it with how they it's just really frustrating. But like I said, that was a political maneuver made to try to get the people who were scared of role-playing games to vote for them. Just like the idiots that followed Al Gore and his wife into the whole rock and roll music being evil. Zachary's lucky. He wasn't born until 2007. He doesn't remember that shit.
Yippee.
because
Oh yeah, I remember that.
in 2000, all through the 90s, this
All
was
you need to
something.
watch South Park making fun of Al Gore, and you'll get the whole picture. So
Yes.
Mm.
If you'll notice, you've seen the big stickers that they put on stuff saying caution, not the caution stickers you see on music, CDs, and things of this nature. You also see them on a lot of video games.
yep,
That stuff came from Al Gore
Al
and
Gore.
his wife. And
I'm super serial, guys.
yeah, the whole parental advisory thing came about because of this. It was the same mindset. And it's one of the reasons why if a politician is running around screaming, if we don't do something in the next 12 years, we're all dead. Yeah, just tune them out
Damn,
because
that's
they're
a bit
full of
dramatic.
shit. Because they've been saying this stuff for
Yeah,
the entirety of my life.
Yeah, they've been trying to scare the population to go with their agenda for over 40 years.
No, it's a lot more than 40 years.
That's why I said
time.
that's why I said over 40 years, because I'm 41, so I'm just saying.
I'm guessing 70 at the bare minimum 70 years.
Yeah,
I'm closer to thinking it's over 100 because of
Man.
the fact that this stuff didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that we have more. We've got a longer institutional memory here because of the internet. Nothing's dying. Even if they can come up with an algorithm that will hide data, one day that data is going to come back out. But
people's search histories are going to get leaked.
Yeah, no kidding.
Better start clearing mine.
Yeah, you better get used to that, Bubba.
Uh-oh.
But like I said, they've been saying this stuff because when I was a little kid, I still have memories of them talking about, oh no, we're about to hit an ice age. There's a new ice age coming.
Seriously?
Yes.
A new Ice Age movie? Hell yeah!
No.
I fucking love those movies.
Those movies are great, but no, I mean an actual.
But now
ice
in
age.
live action.
They were talking about in the 60s and 70s that all the weather pattern stuff were showing that we were about to have another ice age that was going to lock the northern hemisphere into one great gigantic block of ice.
And I just had an epiphany. That's probably exactly why the hippie movement began, and probably why they treated the veterans that came back from the Vietnam War and all that stuff, because they were feeling like, you're going to contribute to this ice age that we've been hearing so much about. So
no, that was mostly because of, you're fighting an unjust war against communist and socialist.
Yeah,
because a lot of the hippie stuff that they embrace the commune living, which is the only form of communism that actually works.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do your job in a commune, they're going to kick you out.
Yeah, you're not getting.
Ask Bernie Sanders all about that.
If it works, it works. So they must be doing something right.
Like I said, socialism and communism.
It works on very small levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things to where if somebody's not pulling their weight, it's not going to work. And like I said, ask Bernie Sanders about that, because he got kicked out of a commune because his ass was so lazy he wouldn't do any of the chores that he was given.
No shit. I didn't know that.
Yes.
I believe it though.
And people are like, look at me like when I say that, and I'm like, it's in the book, dude. Go read it. It's fucking hilarious.
That is pretty funny.
And
so.
I mean, he was it. This is the dude that went to the Soviet Union for his honeymoon. And
why?
That's how much of a socialist and a Marxist the dude was. He wanted to go and see the motherland, and he was actually saying it was a good thing to see people standing in line for bread.
He was probably just like, wait, the people are probably like, oh, comrade, this man from United States here for his honeymoon. Why the fuck you would do that? This place is brilliant. This place is a shithole.
But like I said, and he
He is
refused.
American spy
He
sent by
refused
Uncle Sam.
Duh.
to accept what he saw there when it came to the fact that high-ranking members of the Communist Party were living high on the hog when everyday people were barely able to scrape by and having back in the Soviet Union, if you saw a line, you jumped into it. You didn't care what it was that was it the line was for. You saw a line, it's like, ooh, jump
We're getting
into
something cool.
And because odds are, you know, you'd be able to trade it for something else that you need.
Yeah, that's true.
But that was just the way that was back then. Crazy stuff, because it went from, oh, we got a new ice age coming. Then when I was in junior high, it stopped being new ice age. It became acid rain was going to destroy all creatures.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
How on
And
earth
then-
would that even exist?
Well, acid rain exists around big industrial centers
Yeah.
and places where they've had ecological damage. But the
I
whole
stand corrected.
the big fear about acid rain didn't even last 4 years. It did, because by the time I was in high school, that's when they started the whole thing about global warming. Global warming started when I was in high school, and they started.
It's always the next big thing to scare the next generation.
Yes, and thus they started into the whole global warming thing, and I went into the service when I got out of high school in 1989, and I got to go around the planet. And when I joined the Navy, that's when I really got into role playing games.
You were an astronaut? Awesome.
No, I was in the Navy, man. I sailed the 7 seas.
I
man.
know. I'm just kidding.
Though I did get to see some weird shit flying in and out of the water
I bet.
that I'm still going,
What the fuck was that?
the little gray dude's mooning me, man. This ain't cool. It's real. You didn't see anything. Who the heck is this? This is the XO, man. You ain't seen shit. I don't care that the little green man's flashing his little ding-a-ling at you. You don't see shit. Wait a minute. You're
You
watching
bow at the ding-a-ling and you turn around and walk away.
because that was the kind of crazy shit, we had to put up with in real life. So, of course, we escaped into role-playing games, okay?
Yeah.
But even by escaping into role-playing games, you couldn't get past the fact that there were people who looked at you like you were.
Well, yeah, because back then being a nerd was a very you were punished for being a nerd.
Yeah. Why do you think the Revenge of the Nerds movies were so damn popular?
Exactly.
That's one of those things I would love to see a movies we love on Pop Culture Breakdown get done, is the Revenge of the Nerds series of movies, because I still love hearing Ogre doing the nerd chant, but they became a popular genre of movie because the nerd was the underdog, and Americans love watching underdogs come out on top.
Yeah. Lambda.
Yep. And I mean, Meatballs, Bill Murray, the movie Meatballs had that aspect into it. The underdogs coming out to get one over on the bullies. So many movies from the 80s, the 70s and 80s and early 90s was all about the underdog that was an outsider coming out on top on the cool kids.
Yeah.
That was a whole trope of that time. You had your action adventure movies, you had these really awesome sci-fi movies, and you had the outsider coming out on top movies.
Yeah.
There was a couple of John Cossack movies that was like really, really cool that came out back then. him and Molly Ringwald. They did so many of these really good
Yeah.
movies.
Even Real Genius and Lucas. I mean, they had those. The characters were the main characters were the underdogs, even though they had the jock, the popular guy that was kind of looking out for the nerd. The nerd was the main character in those movies.
Yep. And like I said, being role-playing games were really cool. They were an escape that it allowed us to express ourselves in different ways. And for improvisation, it's awesome because you're just sitting around with your friends, running through these imaginary scenarios, and if you could record some of the stuff that y'all have said during your game sessions, it's funny as all get out.
Yeah, you could write a comedy sketch, like an SNL Kids in the Hall type comedy sketch on those.
Yeah, and
you can make a whole FBI report on mine.
Oh, don't get me started on that, because we did heists. We would actually role play big heists, of how we would break into a vault and get shit out.
Just don't do that with any internet connection hearing you.
Exactly. But they act. Kevin Hart actually did a movie series about a whole bunch of his college friends role playing games of them doing that, and then them getting dragooned and blackmailed into doing it in real life. That's actually a movie that's on my watch list of movies to get.
I can't imagine Kevin Hart doing that. I mean, I guess I can, but I just never thought about it.
It's actually
wasn't really he involved in Diddy parties?
He might have been.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Chris Hart.
Apparently, his wife was considering divorcing him over it.
Allegedly.
Yeah, we got to say that word a lot.
Yeah.
It makes me think But like I said, it's role-playing games is an escape, a way of getting your imagination going. It's one of those things that I think that they ought to be doing in schools.
Oh, for sure. They need to have role-playing clubs.
Because kids today aren't using their imagination. They focus on their little computer games on their little phones.
Yeah. Especially for theater
I am
kids.
right here,
Yeah.
I think there should be a subsection of a theater that has role-playing games as an improv lesson type of deal.
Zachary, you actually play.
You're buffing out.
Games.
Robot.
Yeah.
You're not the type of kid we're talking about that just focuses on those little phone thingies. But so many kids today, that's all they focus on. That are those, card games are not as imagination fuel as actual sitting down and role playing.
Yeah.
That's more of a strategy, long-term thinking type.
It's more
mindset,
it's more like a chess or something like that.
Yes. Which is one of those things that I think that they need to put back into schools. I do believe that we need to put game theory back in schools.
Yeah.
Did somebody say game theory?
Uh-oh. Clap and a half.
Because think about this, okay? We need to get music back into school.
Yeah.
But we do need to get the politics out. That's my biggest problem. Is they need to get politics out of the schools.
That's going to take a lot of work, though. I mean, we're getting there, but it's still going to take a lot of work.
Yes, but we need to get things back into school to get children to think for themselves. Yeah. That's why I say get the politics out. Because right now, so many
cringe.
Because right now, the whole thing is you're teaching the kids what to think, not how to think.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Yeah.
And that to me is one of the best parts about role playing, because you're putting somebody in a scenario and asking them what they're going to do in that scenario.
Yeah.
And
think outside the box about how to go about these situations, because there's things that the dungeon master might have not even thought about, but because you're involved in this role-playing game, you have this idea in your head that maybe nobody's ever thought of before, and you just have to wing it, and everybody has to improv at that point.
exactly. That's the best part about role playing, is the fun you're having, that it makes you think on your feet.
Yep.
By making people think on their feet, it's causing them to start thinking critically. Yes, there's a lot of times in role playing games that you're just out there to have fun, which is primarily what you're there for, is to have fun, to fellowship with your buddies, no matter who they are or what they are. You're there to celebrate being human with people you care about, right?
I'm a
That's why I
human.
play. That's why I play it. Well, I'm talking about you as a person.
I know. I'm
Okay.
just teasing.
I am the embodiment of autism. Does that count?
Yeah, pretty much. That means you're human.
Nice.
Yeah. But like I said, we're looking at this stuff as what it's meant for. It's a chance to share stuff that you love, and role playing games doesn't matter which one it is. I mean, you can play all kinds of role playing games, and there there there's just so many different role playing games. I can't list them all because they're limitless role playing games. Okay, just some of the major ones I'm looking around my quarters right now. I can see Silver Age Sentinels, which is a superhero role playing game. I see
Oh,
Savage Worlds, which is generic. I see
I
Autumn
like
Arbor,
generic stuff.
which is also a superhero game. I see the Marvel superhero role playing game that just came out. I see the
Oh,
old
nice.
TSR Marvel superhero game. I see the Marvel Universe superhero role playing game. I see DC Comics, the old role playing game that they did. It was one of the first ones I ever bought that came out from Mayflower Games. I also see the DC role playing game that was put out by West End Games. I can see Mutants and Masterminds. I see Awesome Power. I see my Hero Clicks collection. I see my
My
Star
hero
Wars,
sucks.
my Star Wars Legion miniatures game. I see BattleTech, which includes the Mech Warrior, uh, Age of War, Mech Warrior Second Edition, Mech Warrior First Edition, the BattleTech Mech Warrior Destiny role playing game. I see the new Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars game books. I see, I can keep going because I even have Champions. I've got, oh shoot, the there's a lot of them, because Seventh Sea was one that is really cool. I did the Kickstarter with them, and we raised a buttload of money on that one. The new
Did somebody say money?
yeah, buddy.
Nice.
But there's so many of these really good games that's out there that you can the D20 Modern, when they released D20 system to the open gaming license, it opened up a world to independent game publishing. It was a godsend to the industry. And this came out in the early 2000s, if not in the year 2000, because that was when they released Wizards of the Coast released Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 and then later 3.5. And the open gaming license was based around Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 and 3.5. You had D20 Modern, which was a continuation of that system. And you also had Wizards of the Coast that put out the Star Wars role-playing game that they took over after Wizards of the Coast had to close up shop. Not Wizards of the Coast, but West End Games had to close up shop. And Wizards of the West End Games, they had kept Star Wars alive with their role-playing game. They also put out the Xena role-playing game, the Hercules role-playing game. They put out the Go. If I remember right, they also did Paranoia. That it was easy to get into a pickup game at a con, Star Wars game, because they had these character templates, which were pre-generated characters. You just pick it up and run with it, and it was fun. You would go to a con and a gaming convention, and you could pick up a game easy peasy and go hit the ground running. And going to a gaming convention, if you guys can get, if whoever's listening to this, if you can go to a gaming convention, go. It's fun. They've got every type of game.
I have never been to one, unfortunately.
When you get here, we're going to be going to several conventions, and you're going to have a blast.
Fuck yes.
Okay. Now, a gaming convention, you will be able to find every type of game imaginable. You will be able to find card games, you'll find board games, tabletop role-playing games, miniature games, strategy games. Though I'll warn you, there's this one game out there that it's a bigger money the addiction game than Magic the Gathering, and that is called Starfleet Battles.
Damn.
Now, Starfleet Battles is a game that terrifies me because for a short engagement of a couple of warships going at each other, it takes all week. It can take
shit.
It can take
I've seen
week.
it. I've seen it played before, but not to the extent like a full session.
It's wild. One of my friends that I used to hang out
with all the time.
It's a huge
board. Like the map that they pull out is like 8 feet by like 6 feet. It's huge.
Damn. That's what she said.
Well, I actually seen at one of the conventions, the Starfleet Battles guys actually took one of the ballrooms that had a black carpet, and they were actually going to have a fleet versus fleet engagement that was going to literally last the entire con, and it was a 5-day convention. And after those 5 days, the battle hadn't even really got fully started yet. That's how massive like I said, you're like looking at this going, oh my God, that's a lot. And I'm the type of person who likes a lot of minutia, and linguistics is one of my favorite things in the world, is trying to figure out what people are in my unit and what they can do and be able to do, how to keep them supplied and keep them in the battle. But damn, Starfleet Battles takes it to the extreme. And I'm like, oh God, no, that's too much. That's too much. But that, like I said, if you guys can go to a gaming convention where you can see that, they even have computer games. One of the first times I ever got to see, yes,
hell
they
yes.
had. You've heard of a LAN party, right? Or they have they have all these network desktop computers.
Oh, nice.
Well, the first time I ever seen something like that was when I was in the Navy, and this is back when computers were still pretty much, personal home computers was still pretty much in its infancy for the most part back in the early 90s. And because one of the guys that I was in the Navy with, he built computers for the Navy. That was his job. He was a computer guy in the Navy building computers.
IT guy.
And getting to see the World War II computers that were still being used on an aircraft carrier was pretty intense because those dang things were gigantic. Now, when I say gigantic, I could fit 2 of my houses in the space where that damn computer was at. Now, if you go, whenever you get here, I'm going to do whatever I can to take you up to go see the USS North Carolina, the battleship in
Hell yeah.
That way you can see some of the stuff that's of how much technology has changed since the 1940s when it was built, because the computer that they had in there to be able to fire the guns on a battleship was massive. And to do that type of calculations with today's technology, you could do it on something the size of a wristwatch. And people, and a lot of people just don't, especially younger people today who've never had to deal with y'all have been able to have computers that can fit in the palm of your hand almost your entire life. When I was born in 1971, man had just walked on the moon.
Damn.
Okay. And they did it with computers that a average digital watch has more memory than the computers they use to do that with.
Whoa.
Okay. And computers today, the desktop I'm looking at right now that I have my the Dad's 3D Studio on, which has 2.5 terabytes a 2.5 terabyte hard drive on it.
I wish my PlayStation had that much storage.
Okay, that desktop has so much more hard drive space than the laptop I'm using right now for this. And it's not even a full year older than my laptop. And it's a refurbished desktop at that I was able to buy for $200 and something.
Nice.
Now, the desktop you'll be getting has just over a terabyte hard drive on it when you get it.
Damn.
So I'm going to have Logan and I are going to be saving up money to buy a new gaming computer that he can use to run Space Marine 2 on, that's got better hardware on it. So it would run without the lag.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much that's going to cost us yet. But that's
gaming PCs can roughly cost like anywhere between 500 to like 2,000 quid. Like it depends how good you want it to be.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
But right now we're focusing more on getting the money together to get you your plane tickets to get here. So there's that.
Thank you.
And we're still trying to figure out the best way of sending you the money so you can go get your passport. That's being a pain in the butt. In fact, hopefully Nadine will have figured that out by the 1st. That way I can send you that money on the 1st.
Yeah.
But anyway, role-playing games are meant to be fun. They're meant to spur your imagination, which gets your mind working, get your brain going, and get you creative and inventive. And by thinking outside that box, it allows your mind the flexibility to be able to deal with anything that comes up in your lifetime. And they've actually shown where going to old age homes and retirement homes where they've introduced computer video games and role-playing games to the people that live there, the dementia and the memory problems are not as bad, because it's increasing the flexibility of the mind. It's just like any type of muscle. The more you use your mind, the stronger it will get. And that's what role-playing games, that's a side benefit of getting your imagination rolling. Now, I've been going on about role-playing games, what games do you guys play?
Mainly just Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, what about you, Ardman Man?
Heroescape mostly. That's my bread and butter for the last 10 years.
Which game's that?
Heroescape. That's a miniature war game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's got like modular terrain and stuff.
Mhm.
Renegade just re-released the brand. It was big back in like 2004 to 2010, and then it discontinued. But they're just now re-releasing stuff for it. So
I've heard of Heroescape,
I have
but
to.
I thought it was a computer game though.
Nope. It's a pretty fun game. I mean, I've done stop motion animation on the miniatures. Some of them actually D&D.
Mhm.
So
What about you, Dinosaur?
I've always been kind of a huge survival horror gamer. I love Silent Hill, Resident Evil. Those have been all
Nice.
my
Which Resident Evil, though?
What?
Which Resident Evil?
1, 2, 3, 7, and 8. Or maybe 4.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Nice. 8 is better, though.
I actually like 7 better. I think that 7 is an all around more contained horror feel. Like I like the idea of like the house in the woods, like away from everything. And in the village, there's it's great. I love the village. It was an incredible game, but I got really like I don't get scared very often playing video games or watching films for that matter. But in part 7, I actually got pretty scared sometimes. Like the way that they set those scares up and everything was awesome. It was great. I also play old school like Mega Man, Zelda.
Which Zelda?
The original part 2, Adventures of Link, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Breath of the Wild a little bit. I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I've played it a little bit. I still have a lot of stuff to do in it. I've just not been asked.
Yeah, one of the best franchise movies to games that I've ever played is the Ghostbusters 2009 game. That was an incredible game. They just did such an amazing job with the proton pack and how the beam works, and yeah, it was a great. The writing too.
The role-playing game that Weston Games put out for Ghostbusters International was pretty cool, where you got to play a franchise of Ghostbusters International.
Yeah,
that's cool.
In fact, the game, when you open it up, there's a letter from Louis Tully
cool.
about it, and explaining what you've got to do to set up your franchise.
That's awesome.
Here's all the legal paperwork you got to fill out. Here's the EPA paperwork you got to fill out. And it's got all this stuff in there to where you figure out who's going to be the president of the franchise, who's your receptionist, and then you basically play Ghostbusters in whatever hometown you're going to be based out of.
I got a question. Have you ever played Phasmophobia?
Yes, I have. Have you ever played Harvester?
No, I have not.
You, if you like Phasmagoria, you need.
I've only ever played Phasmophobia once, and it was like just way too laggy for my shitty laptop to run it. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this again."
If you are,
my laptop just literally got way too hot for me to even touch.
If you liked any part of that, you need to play Harvester. You are going to shit your pants playing that game. Not because it's scary, but because the content in there is so over. I mean, it is literally meant to be so over the top that you're just like, is this legal? Like, can they actually do this and say this? Like, it is crazy. You got to look into it. Even if you just watch like a playthrough of it, check out Harvester.
Bet.
Yep. Gaming is, like I said, it's something that I think everybody should be able to enjoy. And I've seen families that have played. They have their game nights, but it's usually where they're playing a board game or
Board
something
game
like
or
that,
call Uno.
or they'll break out the video console and just and do something like that as a family.
Yeah.
Role-playing games can do that as well.
Yeah.
You just have it's
And it can
it's
also be
something
a
that you can
therapy
use
session, like
to
especially if you do it with family. I mean, picking a character and utilizing that character to use it as therapy in a set, like in a environment with your family, can be so healthy. Like to be able to do
yes.
things as your character that you wouldn't normally say or do, or whatever in your family, but letting them know that like this is kind of on your mind, this is kind of what you're going through, this is what, so everybody connects on that level.
Yes. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize about therapy is that very aspect of it. A lot of therapists they use role playing for that
Yeah.
reason in therapy.
Yeah.
And too many just don't embrace it, and it can be, well, frustrating to be honest, because there's so many aspects of role playing and the benefits that it has in people's lives. I have noticed a lot of friends of mine that did not know how to express themselves when it came to certain subjects. But by giving them a mask to hide behind in a role playing
Exactly.
session, they were able to do it. And by using those very terms, I was able to explain role playing to my mom and dad back in the day. And it helped a lot because there was stuff that
You were afraid to say and afraid to talk about with them.
yes, and it
Yeah.
was also something that I know that they had a hard time. There's stuff that they had hard times dealing with.
Yeah.
But it would have allowed them a little bit more freedom to it.
It's like giving you a key to a door that needs to be opened so that everybody can see what's inside.
Exactly. And we've got to get ourselves to a point where we're not allowing ourselves to be controlled by closed-mindedness and bigotry and expand on what we already have. And role-playing games kind of allow you to do that. It allows you to become you don't become somebody else in reality, but in your mind you do. You're able to express yourself in a new way, and a lot of times you can actually have make friends that you wouldn't have made anywhere else. Because when I was in the service, we had people from all over the ship that would come and game with us. And the biggest thing about it you had people from entirely different sections of the ship. You had people from air department, you had people from deck department, one of the various engineering departments. We had 3 people that worked in the reactor in our gaming group. We even had several Marines from the Marine detachment that came and gamed with us. We had people from the air wing that was on board our carrier that would game with us whenever we were deployed overseas. We had people from the supply department. We had, like I said, we had people from every part of the ship coming and hanging out with us. And some of them, even if they weren't gamers, they weren't there to actually play in the game. They were there hanging out, just enjoying the ambiance of us enjoying ourselves and telling jokes and things of this nature around the gaming table. Of course, the gaming table in this case was not a real table. It was us just perched wherever we could be perched and enjoying the game. Sometimes there might have been a table that you would walk up to so you could roll your dice, or it was on the deck plates in a bowl that you threw your dice into so you wouldn't lose your damn dice. But that's the type of thing I'm talking about, We had fun, and that was all that really mattered, was us being together and having fun. And too many people today just don't have as much fun as they really could be having, it's frustrating to see that there are people that are miserable in life, and they take that misery out on everybody else around them. And we've got to get to a point to where we don't let them do that to us no more.
Yeah,
because
but it's hard because they're trapped inside on their, being keyboard warriors, and they're not experiencing life the same way that they should be.
Well, I don't mean just online. I mean out in the world.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. They're trapped in, like, they don't touch grass. For the most part, they're all just stuck inside, and they don't experience life on that level anymore.
True. There's a lot of people have allowed themselves, especially after COVID, to become extremely introverted and not want to go out and amongst people anymore.
Yeah, I used to be one of them.
That allows people that are in power and to industries able to assert more control over you. It wasn't just the fact that them saying, well, if you don't go get the COVID vaccination, we're not going to treat you for your cancer, or we're not going to operate on your heart and things of this nature. Because that's one of the things that happened with my mom. She couldn't get the COVID vaccination because she was allergic to stuff that was in it. And my baby sister had to go get the COVID vaccination so she could keep her job. And
that's sad.
Mama, when she got really bad pneumonia, and she had an aneurysm in her heart, in her aorta, that they were supposed to fix right before COVID happened. And because of COVID, they kept postponing the surgery to fix the aneurysm in her aorta. So when she got pneumonia and they put her on a ventilator, it caused her blood pressure to go up, down, side by side, diagonal. It was doing backflips and all kinds of stuff, to a point until her that aneurysm in her aorta went kaput.
That's what happened to my grandfather.
And
to the T, that's exactly what happened.
And I know for a fact, Mama wasn't the only one who ended up having something like that happen to them. Yeah. Because of the surgeries being postponed. I was a person who had surgeries that was necessary postponed for over 3 years. And that was the 3 hernias I had. I had 2 normal ones down by the boys, and I had 1 coming out my belly button. And when I say it was coming out my belly button, I mean it. I went from having a normal belly button to parts of my intestines sticking out of my belly button. And when I went to the VA about it, they're like, "Oh, you can live with this." And I was in so much pain, I couldn't clean my house. I'm still fighting to get this house clean from 3 years of not being able to clean it.
Yeah.
And I looked at this doctor and I said, "Are you full of shit? Are you trying to get me to commit suicide? Saying I'm going to have to live with this pain?" And the guy's like, "No, I didn't mean that." And I'm like, this is one of the reasons why so many vets are killing themselves is they're sitting across from a doctor who's saying, "Oh, you can live in this pain."
Yeah.
And it's bullshit. It's total, absolute bullshit. But we've gotten to this
The
point
biggest shit
because
of all balls.
A dire bull cannot make this massive amount of shit that we're having to put up with because of it. I'm talking, it's like when watching Jurassic Park for the first time and you see the big pile of dinosaur dung. You're looking up at that big pile going, damn, that's small compared to this amount of bullshit. You know?
Damn.
And this is what we're dealing with when it comes to bureaucrats, you know? It's like Mr. CCDV. They're taking money away from him, and he's as disabled as I am, and they're taking money away from him.
Well, and the very hypocritical aspect of it is that they're allowing the cartels to bring in tons and tons of fentanyl to sell on the streets, but they're not going to take care of their own American vets who are in actual pain.
Exactly. And because of the fentanyl epidemic,
allegedly, sorry, YouTube.
Allegedly. I can't have pain medication because of the fentanyl problems.
Yeah.
Because they're classifying people who die because of fentanyl overdoses that they don't know that they're taking as opioid overdoses.
Yeah.
So people like me who have drug allergies to the painkillers normal people can take. I have to take methadone and oxycodone for pain.
Yeah.
That's the only pain medicines that really work for me. I can't get that pain medicine.
Yeah.
They won't give it to me because of all the fentanyl overdoses.
Yeah.
Because it's frustrating. It's just like they took away my Ambien because it was an opioid. So I have to take 5 or 6 other types of sleep medicines to be able to have normal sleep patterns.
Yeah. I do too.
And my cyclobenzapine, if I don't get the right type of cyclobenzapine, I'll have an allergic reaction to it. Don't get me started about my my thyroid medicine, because for the longest time, the thyroid medicine they were sending me, I was allergic to it because of something that was in the fillers. Not the thyroid medicine itself, but the fillers that they had in the pill that made it solid that I could take. Because when one of the doctors that Nadine goes to heard about my drug allergies, she sent some samples that was the liquid thyroid medicine, and I had no problems with it. So she's made the statement, you're not allergic to the thyroid medicine itself. You're allergic to something in the pill that they keep sending you. So I went to go see the endocrinologist that they had at the VA about it. And she just could not get the fact that it wasn't the thyroid medicine I was allergic to. It was a filler in the pill. And I was getting frustrated with her. So she calls one of the VA cops to come up and sit in the office while she's explaining to me I'm not allergic to the medicine. And I'm getting so frustrated with it. And the cop looks at me and says, wait a minute. You keep telling, I'm listening to what you're saying. You're saying you're not allergic to the medicine, but a filler that's in the pill. And I'm like, exactly. But she can't hear, she's not hearing me say that. And he looks at her and says, he's not allergic to the medicine. He knows he's not allergic to the medicine. He's allergic to the filler in the pill. That's what he's telling you, doctor. And she's like, he can't be allergic to the filler in the pill. And he looks at me and goes, I think she's trying to kill you. Would you like to leave now?
Yeah.
So
well, at least he was on your side. That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
because as we were walking out of the hospital, he's like going, she couldn't believe that you were allergic to a filler in the pill. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. But the pharmacist that sent me to her kept telling her I wasn't allergic to the thyroid medicine, but a filler in the pill, and asking for her permission for the pharmacy to give me the liquid.
The liquid didn't have the filler?
Not allow them to give me the liquid medicine.
Did the liquid have the filler, or is you cut?
No, the liquid medicine.
You cut.
The liquid medicine was the medicine itself. It did not have any of the fillers that
Okay.
I was allergic to.
Okay. You were cutting out, so I didn't get the whole thing.
And because they wouldn't give me the liquid medicine, you know, I can't take the thyroid medicine that they were sending me for the longest time because I was allergic to the fillers in it. So the pharmacy sitting there trying to find a thyroid medicine I could take that they were allowed to order. And during the Trump administration, they widened the net of what medicines that they could get in. And so I was able to finally get medicine I could take again. So I was able to start taking my thyroid medicine again. And but like I said, when you allow bureaucrats and bean counters who are unelected and unaccountable into stuff like that, that's what you get. That's why I don't trust government control over any type of healthcare.
Yeah.
Is because that's what they're going to be focusing on. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people keep talking about how, why are drugs so expensive in the United States, but it's cheaper in other countries? Simple. In the United States, we have malpractice law is a big deal here. You can sue somebody out the yin-yang. One of the people who mowed the lawns here in town used to be a medical doctor. His wife was a licensed nurse practitioner. Okay. They did the math. They figured out that for 10 months out of the year, the money that they were making as a doctor and a nurse practitioner was going to pay their malpractice insurance for 10 months out of the year. And they're living better now just working during the summer months, mowing grass and doing landscaping.
Yeah. That's a big business now.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a YouTube channel, like, and you go and cut people's grass like for free. People really love watching that, like doing like nice things for people. People will donate and watch your videos and stuff. There's so many lawn care channels on YouTube now that have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers and members and super chats and all that stuff, all because that, you know, they just go out once a week and cut a lawn for free for, you know, to do a nice thing.
Yeah. I've been watching them do that for a while now. Hold on a minute. Something just went wrong with my screen. Let me see. What did I do wrong? Did that change? That changed. Yep, that changed.
Oh, you clicked the banner, I think. Or no, you clicked the comment on top.
Oh, okay.
Go to the very top.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of sounds like a skill issue if you ask me.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm still learning how to use all this stuff.
Tony may do my bit better than I do, but I do his job better than he does. So.
But anyway, like I said, you know, when it comes to the way, I just don't trust governments. After my time in the military, I saw things y'all people wouldn't believe.
Yeah,
they're scary, man. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's what we're seeing in real time. But back to the role-playing game aspects.
Yes, no more politics.
in the military, when we got to play games, man, we would play for long periods of time, and especially whenever we'd be in port back here in the States, and especially during the week, after everybody got done work, you'd go hang out, and depending on if you had money, we'd go to a restaurant. Our favorite restaurant was this Chinese restaurant that had a buffet, and on Saturdays we would go in there first, right after they opened up, and hit the breakfast buffet, and we knew we was going to be hitting the breakfast buffet, the lunch buffet, and the dinner buffet. And we'd tell them we're going to be paying for all this when we get ready to leave. And the first time we went there, it was hilarious because we showed up for breakfast, we ate breakfast. Then lunchtime comes around, and they're like going, they've been here all this time. We did lunch. It was still munching on food all throughout the day as we were gaming. And then it hit dinner time. And little old dude comes out and says, "You've been here for hours, Mom. What are you doing?" "Oh, we're just gaming. Don't worry, we're paying for everything. We're keeping track." And they're like, "Okie dokie." And then about 9 o'clock at night, as they're getting ready to close, "You've been here all day. You've been here all day. You go home now." And I was like, "Of course, we're getting ready to go home."
You go home now.
Then we left them a couple $100 as a tip.
I bet they're happy about that.
And there was like 20 of us, and we paid for each one of us paid for our breakfast buffet, a lunch buffet, and a dinner buffet.
Oh, that's cool.
We paid for everything that we did.
Yeah.
And as we were leaving, we were waiting for the taxis to come and get us.
I bet they were waiting for you to come back the next time.
The little old dude that was telling us we had to go home now comes out. He said, "You'll come back anytime you want."
Yeah, exactly.
Anytime you want. And
you want to sleep here? I have cots. I got cots.
Because they had made so much money on us that day that it wasn't even funny. And I said, "Really? Okay, we'll be back tomorrow." He said, "We see you tomorrow." And Sunday morning rolled around. As soon as the door opened, we were like, "Hi guys," and they're like, "Oh, you back? Come in."
That's awesome.
And we did the same thing that Sunday, and did the same thing as we left. And we actually spent more money on that Sunday because more people actually showed up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
see, we need to get.
They were like super happy.
We need to give good names like to people like that.
"This is your table. Anytime you want it.
Yeah.
This is your table. You have it anytime you want it."
Yeah.
The little old.
No Jones.
And
no Jones.
Whenever people are on the table, he's just like, "Move, not your table, move."
Yeah.
And he goes, and he.
"Yeah, this is your table now. Sit."
It brings out some sake, and
One day he actually told us, because we hadn't shown up because we were short money, and he go, "I don't care you short money, because I know you good boys, you'll pay us back." So he allowed us to have a tab, and it was that little restaurant was up there in Virginia Beach was awesome.
Very cool.
Oh God, after our group broke up, man, I don't know who cried more, him or us.
Probably him.
Because I mean, him and his it was a family-run restaurant.
Yeah.
And they just thought it was amazing that we were all these clean-cut guys that were of every race and creed you could think of. And we all we did was we hung out, rolled some dice, laughed, drew pictures, wrote stuff down. We didn't grab the girls' butts or bums and boobs. We just didn't do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we treated them with respect, and he just was so impressed by the fact that he said he wished he had more customers that behaved the way we did.
I bet.
Because we tipped really good, and we cleaned up after ourselves for the most part.
Yeah, didn't act a fool.
And we didn't cause any trouble. He even went and asked us a couple of times what our favorite beers were. And there was a couple of the guys, they liked Miller Genuine Draft. And he didn't carry that until us, because several of the guys liked Miller Genuine Draft. He started carrying that. And we had a blast gaming there. And it was a shame that when people started getting transferred out of the group, the group didn't have the same cohesion and broke apart. But we gamed all the time. It was something that we just enjoyed doing and hanging out, having fun. We had what we called me campaigns, where you played yourself, transplanted into the game universe.
Yeah.
And the favorite one that we would do when we played a me campaign is where your mind, your soul got stuck in somebody else's body in that gaming universe, and you were stuck in that universe, living in that universe with all
like an isekai.
Yes, with all your player knowledge, but you could tap into the person whose body you're living into's skills and knowledge. And cool. It was it was a fun way of gaming. I mean, we got to play all kinds of games doing that, because if you had never played the game before, that was a really good way to introduce somebody into that universe. Was you're you in somebody else's body.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And you're having to learn how to tap into that person's body's memory.
Yeah.
And thus you're learning the game as you're playing it. Kind of like getting dropped in. Pop Culture Breakdown on Wednesday talked about Buckaroo Banzai and how they dropped you into Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
Cold, without all the knowledge that went with it.
Yeah.
That's the type of me, the way the me campaigns operated. Was you don't know nothing about the universe? Fine. You're playing yourself in this character's body. And it was a fun way of playing. We would do that with, we did it with Star Wars, we did it with Rifts, we did it with Robotech, we did it with Star Trek, Star Wars,
Transformers.
Well, there wasn't a Transformers role playing.
There is now.
Oh yeah, there is now, but back then they didn't have one.
Yeah.
I'm just talking generally off the cuff what we had back then.
Yeah. Hey, I got to get some work done on this website, so I'm gonna have to head out. But right. I'll talk to y'all soon. Love y'all, man.
Right. Love you too. You be good.
Later, bitch.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. But yeah, role playing games are fun, and it's something that I think that I want to see other people play it. It's just like with Sean Carter we had to talk about the fact Zachary and I are going to be building a model together.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure it'd be okay for me to put it on my channel, because I didn't want to step on his toes, since he is the sci-fi model guy. And he's like, "Oh God, that would be so awesome." And he was talking about how he just wants more people building models together and even putting them online on YouTube and stuff, because he wants people to do that. He wants people to share it. And that's how I feel about this channel, where I want us to be able to get people together and talk about the things we love. And right now I'm talking about role-playing games and what I love about it. It's just something, it's fun. It allows you to think outside the box. It allows your mind to be more flexible, and it also can help you get past being introverted, because some of the best role players I've ever known were very introverted people, until you put them in a role-playing game where they're playing a character that's so totally unlike them, and they come alive when they're being someone else. because one of the people that I used to know that was very introverted, she was extremely quiet whenever there was. You've heard the phrase wallflower, right, son?
Not really.
Okay, a wallflower is somebody that would be at a party that would stand back against the wall, watching
So someone that's only there for the food, just
and
like me. Nice.
pretty much.
I would only ever go to a party for the
But a
free
lot
food.
of times they wouldn't even,
And the pets.
but a lot of
if
times
they
they
have
wouldn't
any.
even go. A lot of times they wouldn't even leave to go to where the food that food table's at because they'd be too scared of somebody talking to them.
Fair enough.
I watched someone that was the quintessential wallflower go from that to being the face of the party in a D&D game because their character was a bard. They were given a bard character to play. Thus,
Dear God, not the bard. Dear God, don't let them anywhere near the dragon.
And it was amazing because we found out that not only did she have a beautiful speaking voice, she had a beautiful singing voice. She became that character during it, and it helped her come out of her shell and interact with people in college. And because we would sit on the quad, and she would just sit and watch us play the role playing games in between classes. And I can't remember who it was that invited her to sit at the table with us. Said you might enjoy listening in by sitting at the table with us if you'd like. And so she came to the table and sat with us and gamed with us. And that was how she got into the group. And as time progressed, we were able to convince her to take part. Every now and again, we'd give her an NPC to play. And then when we gave her the bard to play, she started interacting more with the rest of the part. And several of the teachers, they got to know us pretty well because it was a small community college, and they would sit and watch as we were gaming in between classes. And one of my favorite teachers was one of my psychology teachers, and he said, "How did you know to do that to get her to come out of her shell?" And I just looked at him and said, "Because that was one of the things that helped."
The power of friendship.
Pretty much. And he just thought that was pretty amazing. And he's the one that helped teach me about how psychiatrists and psychologists have used role-playing games to help people through their issues. And I was like, that explains a lot. And then I explained to him about the 24 hours I spent in a psych ward. And a couple of the psychiatrist was like going, "What are you doing here?" I have no idea. The doctor I was talking to was from the Philippines. And the next thing I knew, he sent me here. And they were like going, "Don't worry, we're working on the paperwork to get you back to where you belong." But they asked me to spend some time with the people that were stuck in the ward and talk to them about the role-playing game books that I had with me and show off my artwork and interact with the people to try to help them heal because so many of them were broken. There was a guy that was in there because his wife had been cheating on him and he found out the kids
What a
were his. Yeah. They were all in the military and they all had went through some really messed up shit. One of the guys that was there had showed up and had himself admitted because he just couldn't deal with the stuff that was going on in his personal life. And the doctors were dealing with it and trying to deal with all the red tape and shit that went with him showing up there because he just showed up there. He didn't get sent by a doctor. And they were like going, he should have been sent by a doctor. because he had been trying to get the doctors at the command that he was going to take him seriously of just how depressed he was. And because the dude had a security clearance, very few people were allowed to interact with him. And it was so messed up.
I think it'd be pretty funny if, those like eco tanks?
Yeah.
And people just
one of those
people don't get just what it's like.
Hmm.
People that have security clearances that have to deal with stuff like that. It's really messed up. But the role playing aspect of it was something that I had talked with a couple of the doctors that was there as I was getting ready to go back to the ship. And I said, why don't you break out some Dungeons and Dragons with them and help them that way and help them get through it? Because it might help, because several of them, I can see the person who they really are when they're not hurt so damn bad that they've withdrawn into themselves. And the talk I had with the psychiatrist is one of the reasons why I got into psychology, trying to understand it, was that reason. And because they said I have empathy and I was compassionate enough to be able to see the person who they really were past their hurt, and was able to talk to that person while I was there. And one of the psychiatrists was saying that she regretted the fact that I was going back out to the fleet again, because she felt that if I had spent some more time there, it might have helped those guys more. But I wasn't supposed to be there, so they couldn't keep me. But spending that time there was informative. That people who've been hurt so bad, they're not less than us. They've just been hurt, and they deserve our kindness and our compassion. And then being disabled and crippled, I've learned a lot about what it took. There's a lot of people out there who were just like me, who've been crippled, that have survived stuff that 99.9% of other people would never have been able to survive. And so don't look at them with pity. Look at them going, holy shit, dude, what did you survive to still be here? They deserve respect because they're still here. They've not given up. And that's what doesn't mean.
I like what you're saying, Richard.
Yeah.
That they're not capable anymore. They can overcome it.
I like what you're saying, Richard. When you're talking about RPGs, I think one word like you haven't said is that, imagination, creative imagination is very important. And I think that's one thing that people are seriously lacking today. The ability to
very much so.
Yeah, to go outside themselves, because a lot of time, life is life. It stinks.
Yeah.
And in order to better yourself, sometimes a little bit of escapism, can go a long way and to reveal who you are.
And that's the problem with a lot of these, the quote unquote modern audience that they're writing all this stuff for, are people who don't have that creativity. It's why they have to steal somebody else's platform to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah, they're in their own prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, there are some people that I have met that are in the who suffer from the woke mind virus that can be creative.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I've witnessed several people who were very, 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 very creative fall into this mind virus, and they're not creative anymore. They went from actually writing fan fiction, drawing, and things of this nature, and they're not doing it no more. Me, I'm still creating. I just can't draw the way I used to because of my hands hurting all the time.
Sure.
And so I started teaching myself how to use the DAZ program to be able to create the avatar that you're seeing that I'm using right now. And stuff like that. So I can still be creative. And it's one of those things that I've seen people go from having an imagination and using it to just using it every now and again. You'd see them like in co- dressing up in costumes for Halloween costumes for Halloween parties and things of this nature. To now they just watch whatever is on TV
Right.
and accept it and say, "Oh, this is good." And I'm like, if you enjoy it, fine, but don't say it's better than the original
Hmm.
because there's a lot of stuff that's missing. There's plot holes in these storylines that just don't make sense. And if you can plug the holes, tell me how you plug the hole.
Mhm.
But even they can't figure out how to plug the hole.
Sure. And I mean, if people want to enjoy something and it being terrible, I think it's downright terrible. I mean, well, you know, they can enjoy it if they want to. You know, it's still point still stands though. The quality has degraded a lot in like since like what 20, 40 years. You know.
Well, look at since we're talking about role playing games, let's look at Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, the artwork that they used to illustrate the Dungeons and Dragons book had adventurers adventuring and doing things. You know, oh shit, I'm about to get eaten by this trap, or I'm about to get eaten by this giant shark, or oh, that tentacle monster is looking at my butt in ways I don't want it to look at my butt. Okay, we went from that type of artwork to gay dwarves baking scones in a blacksmith shop wearing sandals with matching tattoos of each other's braided beard on their arms.
It's trying to promote a message, indoctrination, rather than just an overall storyline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just looking at some of that artwork, I mean, they started saying, "Oh, orcs are racist." Like, wait, what?
Apparently, orcs can have children now too. You know.
Wait, what?
Families. Yeah.
Couldn't they have always had that?
Apparently,
yes,
Lord
they
of the
always
Rings.
have. They've always been able to. But for some
Well,
reason,
I think I'm gonna go to bed now. It's kind of late, and I have school in the morning, and I have to walk an hour straight in the rain, which I'm not happy
That's right.
about.
It is a school night.
Yep. All right,
be good,
later,
son.
guys.
All right, love you,
Bye.
son.
Love you too.
But yeah, I'm looking at it's like flipping through this artwork, and I know Mexican Iron Man was talking about this because they asked him about it. How do you feel that they've turned orcs into Mexicans? And he's like, "Wait, what?" And they showed him the pictures off of Twitter X of
Mhm.
all these orcs dressed up as in Mexican type clothing and shit. And the look on his face on that video was
I heard that one. Yeah.
priceless. You've seen the meme of the guy going. I can almost see Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias saying priceless by the look on his face. It was so priceless because it's insane. You know, I'm not going against the artist because the artwork is gorgeous. The art is beautiful. It's just the subject matter went from adventurers adventuring and doing really badass cool shit to them just sitting around eating tacos and sushi, scones and things of this nature.
Hmm.
And I'm like, come on, dudes. We're
If you want tacos, there's food trucks all over the place. You know, just go get some.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'll admit, finding good sushi can be a pain in the butt,
Hmm.
depending on where you live. If you live in a rural area, it is a pain in the butt. Whatever you do, don't go for the side of the road sushi that isn't air conditioned or refrigerated. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's gonna mess you up.
Oh yeah.
You'll spend some time in the toilet losing weight. Just make sure you hydrate.
I don't have much to me anyway, so
You're lucky, man. Don't brag. Don't brag. I've got to lose about 50, 60 pounds.
I see.
But but since I can't assume the role of Santa Claus, I'm gonna have to start losing weight.
Hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, but role playing games, it's these kids today. They're not having a creative outlet
Right. And I think that's
as an
important too.
academic outlet,
Hmm.
and children need that. Why do you think play therapy exists? Even
Right.
for adults, play therapy exists.
I still have my
Art
Legos
therapy
from
has a
20,
reason.
30 years ago.
You're bragging, man. You're bragging. Come on. I
Well,
told you what happened to
I'm
my
not saying
toys, man.
I'm not saying I've played with them, but they're boxed up. I still have them.
Admit it. You're still playing with them.
No, my son is. No, I have barely time. No, I mean, um, I had a choice like 10, 15 years ago to do stop motion with Legos or like with HeroScape stuff, like I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
And Legos are a ton more complicated to stop motion animate, and HeroScape is just a bunch of inanimate objects. It's miniatures that are just static. They don't really do anything. They're just you can't move arms or anything. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'll try these instead. That seems a bit more simpler.
Yeah. For me, I mean, the creative outlets that are out there, even the video games, are not as creative an outlet as they could be. Now, the MOOPs, the like Fallout 76, uh, Star Trek Online, DC Online, the Lord of the Rings one. There's a Stargate one I found out. I'm like, oh wow, I thought that got canceled. They're like, no, it's still out there. I'm like, oh okay. Those can be creative if you've got a group to do it with. Because I know in Fallout 76, there's a group that of thespians that go and put on plays in the Fallout 76 universe.
Mm.
On the server, they'll go out and do a play. And it's that can be a creative outlet. That can be a role playing game, like the tabletop role playing games where everybody sits around and plays. With the use of Zoom, you've got people that from around the world that can sit at a virtual gaming table and game.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you've got entire websites that are set up for that.
Right.
Fantasy Grounds is one, Roll20 is another, and you've got this stuff to where you can actually get. I've been trying to talk the guys I was in the Navy with, see if we could try to set something like that up for old time's sake. As an anniversary type reunion type deal, let's get together and play some of our favorite characters. And I'm hoping by setting this up, I might be able to convince them to do it.
Yeah, you might do it sometime. I know I have like a friend, like a YouTube friend. He loves D&D, and I know he wants to get a bunch of us content creators on board sometime. Of course, he's busy himself. But I know he wants to do that sometime. I mean, and if you don't mind me saying a little bit, like my limited experience with role-playing games, actual to the book is just one time I played Pathfinder, and it was at Origins in Columbus. I was there with a friend. My friend had like a booth for a space combat game that he was designing and creating, and so I helped him manage that. But one evening, we bunked with a bunch of other guys in the hotel, and they're like, "We're gonna play Pathfinder. Would you like to play?" I'm like, "I've never played like role playing games before in my life. I mean, I've done video games, but not role playing games." And this was like almost 15 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I still remember, like, I was a thief, and we were exploring a crypt, and that was a ball of like 3 hours. It was a lot of fun. I mean, and I just felt like, live dangerously. Like, I tried to put my fingers in every crack and cranny, tried opening all the doors, and nearly killed myself from like fire bombs and flames and whatever monsters and stuff. But it was, so it was just a basic, I'd say basic dungeon crawler type scenario, but it was a blast. It was still something very, very memorable, and like I said, it was my first time playing it, but I kind of picked it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Why I say if you can go to, I tell people if you can go to a gaming con, do it. It's going to be a blast. If you don't, you could just show up. As long as you're willing to sleep on the floor for the first day, you'll meet somebody there and hang out and make friends. And they'll be like, "Hey, you can come stay in my room."
Here, I'll show you. This is one role-playing game book that I actually do have because I got this because I might play this with my son sometime. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, there you go. There.
Oh, sweet. Is that the one based off of Watership Down? The
Probably, yeah. I used to read Watership Down all the time. I still got the books, but I thought that I'm just like, what, I could. I mean, with like the modular terrains I have, and then I can like 3D print rabbits. I mean, that might be an easy visual thing to do sometimes with that particular type of role playing game. So I haven't busted it out yet, but
I bought for my little sister and her niece and nephew a game called My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic. That whole role playing game. I bought all the books on PDF for them, and they've not yet tried playing it. But I've given it to them, and they don't have the computers to be able to do it. And I'm like, oh great, that means Christmas time rolls around. I'll probably end up going and buying them the hardback copies so they can play it. Because Laura Jane, my little sister, she loved My Little Pony growing up, and my niece, she likes stuff like that. The cute little animals. If I could find
Oop, you're cutting in and out. You're kind of dropping there for a second. You got the duck of death happening, I think.
Pokemon role-playing game, I have a feeling that she would go nuts over it. But yeah, the kids come over to play with the kittens, which is great. When the power was out, thanks to the hurricane that went through, they were freaking out over the fact, one, there was no power.
Sure.
It was getting hot and muggy in the house, and it was quiet in the house. I had to go and get one of the radios, battery-powered radios, so I could play music so they would calm down. And I was like, it's like I told everybody on Tony's thing about when there's no power, it's really messed up. It's hard to believe just how dependent we've come onto that until you don't have power. And it's not just humans that are dependent on the power. Our animals have gotten dependent on it too.
Oh, sure.
Because especially at nighttime when it got so dark, they literally was sleeping they were right on top of me. So they would be safe. They're like, no, we're just here for pets, man. We're just here for the pets. We're not afraid of the dark. No, we're not. No, we're not afraid. No. Hey, keep your hand on me. You don't have to pet me. Just keep your hand on me. That's it. There you go. That was the kittens the whole time until the power came on. And then when the power came on, they looked at each other, looked at me, looked at the fact that the lights was on and the ceiling fan started moving. And they're like going, all right. And then they took off.
Yeah.
And
it's funny the interaction with humans that animals have. And it can be really nearly any animal. I mean, the more they interact with humans, the more domesticated they get. It's a very interesting thing.
Well, humans have that capacity to bond with pretty much any animal. And I mean, there's people that are able to bond with spiders, with snakes.
I remember watching a video about a bumblebee. I think it was in England, where someone like found this bumblebee that was wingless, and they did a video about it. And then when it came to time, because they only have short lifespans, when it came time for it to die, the description of it dying, and you're just like, you're watching this, and I'm like, I'm crying over a freaking bumblebee.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
yeah. It's I mean,
yeah, that's yeah. One of the guys. It's hard to believe that humanity will allow ourselves to be so open with animals that would be more than willing to kill us. Okay. Now, I've seen videos from India, where these little kids are sitting there around a whole bunch of cobras, and the cobra looks like it's about to strike them until the kid just slaps the shit out of them. Bam! No.
No.
And then the snake goes, "Sorry, I ain't gonna do that again."
Yeah, they can do that, but no. I draw the line at snakes.
I can't handle snakes, and I can't handle spiders. It's like we were playing a game. Sean Carter was doing this game, Know Your Words or something like that, and the headlines. And one of the sub headlines to the one that we had to write was "Man burns down house because he saw a spider." And I'm like, hey, that was me.
They have this game on Steam called Kill It With Fire. And basically you're trying to kill a spider with anything you have in your hands, hammers, nails, nuclear bomb, doesn't matter. Just you're trying to kill this spider. And I have my wish list. I haven't got it yet, but it looks very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I don't need that as a game. That's my real life because it's Spider-Man. Over here's my flamethrower. I'm going for the flamethrower.
House is burnt down, justifiable,
Yeah. It's like with snakes, man. I see a snake. It's like, oh hell no. We were playing a Pathfinder game, not Pathfinder, but Starfinder, and part of the thing was we were supposed to be carrying a cargo. Didn't know what the cargo was until it got on the ship, and it was these two gigantic snakes. And my character's like going, nope. Nope. Slammed the door to my room. No. And then this thing gets loose. It's being possessed by a demon. We gotta fight it. I'm gonna blow that motherfucker out the damn airlock. No, if you kill it, we're not gonna get paid. I can live with that. And then when we finally get the demon out of it, get it put back where it's supposed to be. We get to the planet where we were supposed to deliver it. And I'm like, no more snakes. None. Nada. Zip. No snakes. No snakes. No snakes at all. And they're going, you do know this planet has snakes on it, right? What? And the next thing, the one of the guys was playing a null. The big giant hyena-looking dudes. Dude's character's like 8 feet tall.
Okay.
Next thing he knows, I'm sitting on his shoulder, pointing my gun at the ground, going, if you see a snake, tell me so I can shoot it. And he's like going, get off of my back. Get off my back. I ain't leaving until we're off the planet so I don't have to deal with no snakes. And they're like going, you really afraid of snakes that bad? Hey, one just got possessed by a demon and dang near got us all killed. How do you think I feel about snake? Oh God, it was fun to play because that was me in real life. I can't stand snakes.
It's funny. I actually have a RPG, like a role-playing game recommendation that I think it would be hard for you to play, but you should certainly investigate.
What's that?
Sometime down the line, look up the YouTube channel Joe Crazy 3193. He's a fellow YouTuber associate of mine. He's developing a role-playing game based off the board game HeroScape. So instead of playing HeroScape in its form as being just basically it's how do I say a skirmish type of combat type thing, toward with squads and heroes and such. It's a relatively pretty quick game. But what he did is he took the characters, the terrain, the lore, the information, and some stuff outside of lore to input other lore in it, to where he created something called Heroescape Adventure. And he's been testing out this type of role-playing game in different like Heroescape tournament scenes, venues sometimes. And I had the opportunity of playing one of those with him early August when we went to a convention called SkateCon, which is in Indianapolis, and it's like you can have, it was like 80, almost 80 people there in this hotel, basically playing Heroescape for 5 days straight. But he did have like events, like two event slots where we would play this role playing adventure instead of just pure Heroescape. And so you got to pick a Heroescape hero character. I picked Sylvaris, which Sylvaris is a is basically supposed to be like Legolas in Lord of the Rings. He looks like Legolas. He's got an arrow like Legolas, and in the game, he kind of like fires his arrows a lot. And in my imagination, I have the character Sylvaris. I have in my stop motion animated series, to where I kind of have his character like an anti-Legolas. So instead of the smooth talking, dude that everybody wants to be around, a higher, whinier pitch voice, very headstrong, wants to fight the bad guy, even though he should stay back and just fire arrows. No, he wants to charge in and take him out with his fists or whatever.
What's the channel's name again?
Very, very cocky. The guy's name, Joe Crazy 3193.
3193. Joe Crazy.
Yep. And he has some videos on Heroescape Adventure. He has a Heroescape Adventure like intro. I think he has one or two gameplay videos of him going through Heroescape Adventure. But I know it's something that he needs to pursue in the future, maybe write a rule book on it. But I know he's still in the phase of just figuring out how to get it to work.
Yeah.
But it was a total blast. And we had to basically explore. And eventually we recorded this event. It might take him a while to get it out online, but we did record the event. And it was basically like we dealt with like a giant werewolf at one point, and it took me firing like 6 arrows to bring him down, and then like I exploded a spaceship with my arrows, and then all these undead astronauts came out and started killing us, and then near the end, a big bug, like we were killing spiders. And then eventually this humongous bug type Titan creature came out and tried killing us. And I mean, you were judged at the end of the tournament by how much stuff you collected, because there are certain items and valuables you could collect. And my character basically got nothing. I was like in last place near the end of it, but I was having so much fun with that character and with the way the game was played. It's something that's really a lot of fun to do, and I hope he can write some type of like rule book scenario sometime in the future for other people to be like a quote unquote dungeon master or something.
Yeah,
to do that themselves.
One of the things that about role playing, I mean, it's all about having fun, about being creative. But it's primarily the fun to it. When Gary Gygax first was starting this stuff, it was a type of war game where the games master sat in an entirely different room than you. That's why the map maker was such an important role, because you'd have somebody who would run notes back and forth with the games master about what you would find in the next room that you entered, that sort of thing. And I'm just glad that they don't play it like that anymore, because that just seems drawn out and convoluted. that today's D&D is so much different than the way it originally was done.
Sure.
And
Quick question. What do you think about, I mean, what's more important when it comes to, like, say, when Dungeons and Dragons, for example? Is the how you play the game important, or is the lore more important? Because I know there's like history with characters and whatever worlds you're diving into. What do you think is more important? Are they both equally so?
they're both pretty equal,
Mm-hmm.
but it goes into play style is very different. I use the term play style a lot because a play style can basically be, are you going with the rules as they set, which are supposed to be guidelines, and your primary thing is to enjoy yourself and have fun,
Mm-hmm.
to where, oh, you just rolled a 1. Okay, roll yourself up a new character type game. Are you going to run it that way? Are you going to be, let's go with the rule of cool here? Yes, you just fumbled. Technically, you should have just got yourself killed with that fumble. Instead, let's go with something that's going to make people have remember this as a fun thing, i.e., you fumbled, you fell flat on your face, you damn near got killed and eaten. But everybody knows what your ass looks like because you're running around with a big hole missing from your pants because that damn thing damn near took a bite out of your ass. Type deal, Sometimes you got to like flub a roll here or there just so the game keeps going and keeps having fun. And so I use the rule of cool and fun a lot when it comes to gaming because you're there to have fun, you know? It's and if you've got to be the butt of the joke, be the butt of the joke. I'm
Right.
willing I'm willing to do that to get people to laugh. And I mean, it's like in one of the Fallout reactor side chats, I said, God, I think I'm becoming a furry because I'm falling in love with Kirsch. And I let myself be the butt of furry jokes for a long period of time over that, just so I could get the joke out and get people to laugh and have fun. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can't,
No, okay.
you can't be serious 24/7, And there's
I think this is one thing growing up that, I mean, I personally had to get used to is to not take everything personally. Like, especially like when it comes to HeroScape, it being a skirmish game, and it really depends. I mean, some of it's skill, but some of it's numbers too of the dice rolls. If your averages, it depends on averages rather than over like majority of wins, basically. It's in many ways a numbers game. And so you got to take your losses along with your wins. And so it can't be anything personal. You have to take it in stride. And I think I've played the game so much that, I mean, when I started playing it with a friend of mine who's a very, very skilled war gamer, he plays like Warhammer 40K and all these really, really good games. And so the 50th time that he beat me, I'm just like, well, I can't hit him. He's my friend. So I learned to be a bit more gracious and just have fun with it and learn to get better, at those type of competitive gameplay things. But when it comes to like RPGs, I mean, that you have to like really, really pile on the keep it less. As competitive as you want to, but it really, for overall enjoyment, you're just there to have fun. And yeah, nothing should be taken too personally. If you're too serious about it, I don't know what to tell you. It's just like, come on, we only have one life, people. Let's just have some fun with it,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's another thing about role playing games is it's like good sportsmanship.
Mhm.
You got to learn how to accept when you lose. And in a role playing game, you can do that without physical pain. That's the difference between sports and role playing.
Yep.
Sports, there is physical pain. If you fall down, go boom, and there's also the embarrassment of, oh shit, as I was trying to jump over that hurdle, I racked myself really, really bad. And people are the entire school watched it happen, you
Mhm.
know. But if you're doing it in a role playing game, you're surrounded by friends who aren't going to be pointing that out to just everybody, that ends up becoming a inside joke of your friends and not something that everybody and their grandmother's going to hear about, because not everybody and their grandmother cares that you play Dungeons and Dragons or any of the other games, and your character did something super stupid, and the monster tried to take a bite out of your ass, and ended up giving everybody the full moon for a whole adventure, because you're running around with your ass hanging out because, well, the teeth came really close to snipping something off you didn't want to get snipped off. But it becomes an inside joke amongst your friends. But it makes you learn how to accept you're not perfect.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
that's something that our society today has lost. Too many kids today think that their shit don't stink.
Right, and they can't
Because
do anything.
mhm,
And we're talking about simple things like driving, doing laundry, making a meal, pouring milk for a bowl of cereal, like simple things.
yeah.
You know?
And I look at that and I'm like, wait a minute. Is this the problem of people having participation trophies, that they've grown up to a point to where they don't know how to do anything? They don't understand that failure is a part of life. It's a life lesson you've got to learn.
Yeah.
And role playing games can allow them to experience these things without the everlasting consequences of it that you would have in like, say, playing sports, that if you get hurt really bad, you can spend the rest of your life in excruciating pain with a broken knee or a broken ankle or other.
It's a risk you take. Yeah.
Exactly. And role playing allows you to be able to experience things without as much risk.
Yes.
And
Significantly less risk.
but it still allows you to learn from it.
Mhm.
And I think that, like I said, role playing is one of those things I think that they really do need back in schools. It's it's just as much as Thedazord said with uh, theater, you know. But I think role playing should predate theater, because
Mhm.
in many ways, you could have role playing games going on in elementary school and junior high / middle schools before you even get them into theater. This could be a way of getting
Right.
them ready for theater.
And
Uh,
I think it's good for communication too, because when it comes to communication, people skills, schools don't teach that. And I mean, there are whole volumes of books on people skills, communications. Like, I mean, first thing that comes to mind, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. When I read that book, that just blew my mind. That was
yeah.
just like something like, oh, okay, so this is why I'm not getting any dates. Yeah.
hmm It's it's one of those things that I really do think it would improve the next generation by a lot. The Because a lot of these kids today, they don't have the human interaction skills that they
Right.
need. And I've noticed that the children who are homeschooled have better human interaction skills than those that have gone to public school.
Mhm.
In fact, there are some homeschooled kids that have better interaction skills than I've seen at kids that went to private schools.
Sure. Well,
Only do they know more than the kids that went to private schools? They're more well-rounded and more personable than the kids that went to those expensive private schools.
I've done all
And
three,
it
so
so you understand where I'm coming from on that. It's
for sure.
and our kids are the most important things that we will ever do in our lives. There's nothing more important than the raising of the next generation. We have allowed ourselves to think, oh, the school will do it for us. And we see what we got when we did that.
Yeah, no, that's not a good mindset. I mean, school education should be supplemental. As a parent, you should be as responsible as you can for the growth and development of your child. It's your child, and that's a responsibility you should take seriously. You got your job, you got your marriage, then your third job is your children, and that should be your focus. But yeah, many people don't see it that way.
Yeah, and to me, that you're failing when you do that. When you don't focus on your kids, see. To me, marriage is all of it, all of the above. It's you, your spouse, and your kids. That's your marriage. The relationship, the partnership that exists between spouses has to be both of you giving 100% at all times. There, you can't hold anything back, because anything that's worth doing is worth doing it with everything you've got. And marriage is one of those things you have to do it with everything you've got. Just like being a parent, you've got to love with your whole heart. You can't hold back.
A ton of work.
And marriage only works when both parties are focused on making it work. And I'm speaking from experience. I gave 210% when it came to when I was married to Emma. She was my everything. And what I did for my kids, they were my everything. I woke up early just to get them ready for their days. I made them warm tea and milk, and I made her hot cup of tea first thing in the morning. I got the boys up and started getting them ready for their day while she was waking up with her hot cup of tea.
Because she was British, right?
Yes.
So
she's English. Yeah.
English, British. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And when I would come home from work or from school, she and the boys would be waiting for me at the door. Jack would be bouncing up. He would be happy, jumping up and down, going, "Daddy's home." And Zach would be holding himself up on the door frame, bouncing, happy that I was home. I'd come through the door and scoop them both up into my arms, giving them hugs as I was giving her a kiss. And I would ask her if she needed a nap, if the boys had been rambunctious and ran her ragged that day. And if she needed a nap, I'd say, "Okay, go take a nap," and I'll take the boys out to the little playground here that was behind the apartment complex. So they would. Hi there. Give him a hug. Tell him I said hi.
Give me a hug. Okay. You doing something with Mama?
Yeah, I'm just going to the store.
But like I said, I'd take them out to the playground and let them play, and so she could have a nap. Even if she didn't feel like taking a nap, we would then either go to the park or we would go to the airport so the kids could watch the planes take off and land.
What is that?
That's Mr. Richard.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you today?
My name's Jose.
Howdy, Jose. I'm Richard. Do you want to know who? Richard, yes. Can you see the picture of my avatar right there?
You see the picture?
I can see.
All right. Would you like to see what my dad looks like?
Wow.
Nope, that's not my dad yet. I'm going to show him to you in a second. Let me see. Where did I put Dad's picture? That's not it.
Not it?
No, hold on. I'll show him in a second because he's supposed to be here. Because my dad is very important, and I think you'll like him. Let's see. All right, he's not showing up there, so I'll have to do it this way. But yes, I think Jose is gonna.
7-Up. I'm just gonna go in the store.
All right. Well, you be good, and give your dad a hug.
Yeah, you be good for your mama. Okay.
I will be good for my mom.
That's good.
Okay.
But yes.
Bye.
Bye now. Having kids is one of the most important things in our lives, man. And are too many people nowadays don't treat their kids the way they really should be. And it breaks my heart because it's something that can only lead to heartbreak if you're not taking care of them. It frustrates me because there are so many children out there that grow up into adults who have this place in their heart that's missing. And that is what hurts me the most is I know so many wonderful people in this life who have been hurt so bad that it breaks my heart. It really does because they're wonderful people who are missing something in their lives that everyone else takes for granted. And it hurts. They're not whole because they're missing that important part of their lives because they don't have that in their lives, that they just don't have a father or a mother in their life that can fully.
Yeah, there's your dad.
Yep, that's my dad. But so many people just don't understand. Yes, working so hard to get the money to keep a roof over your head, over the head, and food in the belly. Yes, that is very important. But that's not what your kids are going to remember down the line. That's not what you're going to remember down the line. Because I had these talks with my grandfather and my grandmother in the last days of their lives. Their regrets was not the fact that they didn't work hard enough. It was the fact that there was so many things that they missed in their children's lives. And there was lessons that my grandfather said that he wished he could reteach my dad and my aunt. That he said, I made these mistakes with your dad and your aunt, and I wished I could change them. And he would say, Tinker, don't make these mistakes. And so I learned those lessons from them. It's one of the reasons why, like I said, if Emma didn't feel tired, we'd go to the airport. And you've not seen it until you've seen a 3-year-old running along the fence in time with a private plane going down the runway to take off, and he's trying to keep up with it with his arms out like he's a plane and jumping up in the air when he hit the bottom of it.
My son's done similar things.
So you know how awesome that is.
Mhm.
Now, watching him do that when he finally saw a small private jet do that, and he was yelling like the jet, and he was jumping in the air, and the people that worked at the airport, and they had the private little uh, hangars there with their private planes and everything, would see us coming and watching the planes all the time. Several times they would come out and ask if we would like to come and see their planes, so they could show their planes off to the little boys, and we would. And the look on Jack's face when he was sitting in behind the yoke of one of those planes was priceless.
Mhm.
And then when we would get home, we would cook dinner as a family, and Jack would be helping cook. Zachary, he would be sitting there in his car seat looking at me as we were getting stuff set up, even, and he was helping even if it was just holding one of the cans of uh, food before we opened it up to put it in the pot to start cooking it. And after we would eat, Emma would wash the dishes while I gave the boys with their baths. And then after the bath, we would get the boys out and start getting them ready for bed. We'd then read Jack his bedtime story, and one of us would lay with him while the other took Zachary out into the living room and watched TV with him until Jack fell asleep. Then once Jack was asleep, we would then get Zachary to sleep, and then it was her time. Whatever she wanted to do, we did it. And then when we went to bed, I would be the one that woke up to do the midnight feedings and nappy changes. And that came from the fact that Zachary wanted to sleep all day and party all night. And I had to break him of that one. And
Yeah.
and the way I broke him of that was by telling Emma, it's time to go to bed. I've got this. I'd tuck her into bed and take Zachary into the living room where the couch was at, turn the TV on with a lamp on, and lay on the couch with his head over my heart so he could hear my heartbeat, see the light was on, and see the TV was going, and then he would sleep through the night. And that's where me doing midnight feedings came from. Didn't get a lick of sleep, but it was the best rest I ever had.
Oh yeah. After my son was born, I haven't really slept since.
Yeah.
Maybe now that he's like a little bit older, I've gotten a little bit more sleep. But I mean, that first week after he was born, I didn't sleep at all that first week, and then I had to work a little bit after that, and I was a walking zombie through a lot of that. That was
Yeah. So you get where I'm coming from,
Mm-hmm.
That was the type of husband and father I was. I put everything into it. Did whatever job I had to do, even though there were times when I was doing 12-hour days. It didn't matter. I did what needed to be done. And then when I was able to go to college full time, as soon as I finished my college classes and got home, it was all their time. Didn't care how tired I was, it became their time. And when right before the accident, Emma was supposed to take the boys to the UK so they could start getting all the paperwork done so we could move to the UK after I graduated from college, because the VA I was going to be starting a job with the VA out of the US Embassy there in London. That was the job that they had set up for me. And the move to the UK was going to be pretty good because they had promised me a place to live that was not that far from the embassy. I was either going to be able to get a car or they were going to have a driver for me because they knew how much I hated driving. I could drive, but I hated driving. And which is ironic considering how I ended up getting crippled,
Right. No, and
And
that part of your story is, I mean, it's incredible. Just simply incredible that you survived that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't survive it. I died 5 times. I just kept getting sent back.
Yeah. Well,
And
I'm going to say overcame. How would you put it? What's the right word for that? You're still here. Let's put it
I was
that way.
told, yes, I kept getting told, I ain't done with you yet. Get back to work.
Yeah.
Because I did. I begged him, please, let me stay dead, please. I don't want to go back. No, you got to go back. And here I am. And, but I made this body walk again just so I could be there for my wife and my kids.
Right.
Because when I came out of the coma, she said, get well enough to get on a plane to get home to me and the boys, and everything's going to be all right. And I went from not even able to lift my head off the bloody pillow to being able to pick my body up off the bed with one hand. The only parts of me that was touching that bed was the heels of the back of my feet. And it scared those nurses to death. I mean, having to get a lawyer meant I got to read those doctors and nurses' notes. And the nurses, the way they described it was like a switch had been flipped. And it scared them. They had never seen anything like that before. And then when I went crazy, oh God, me and morphine don't mix. And,
oh, right. Yeah, I remember that part. Yep.
And but yeah,
me and morphine are fine. We have a good relationship, at least when I need it.
You're lucky, man. But not, I mean, but the role playing parts of stuff is something that I think that it would help kids today, teach them how to accept losing or having a failure here and there. And it might also teach them how to be a little more honest about when they make mistakes.
Right.
You know,
it's good to separate the fantasy from the reality too. You know,
because
as well.
If you can teach a child that if you make a mistake and you're honest about it, things will turn out better. That's just proof. That's proof.
So I'm currently trying to tell my son.
You know, but I also am a big believer that if the child deserves capital punishment, you should give it to them. You know, a quick pop on the butt, or some type of a punishment has to be given so that they learn that when you do bad, there are consequences to it.
Right. Well, even this, I heard it said a while ago that even if you would just say no, and there is no bargaining, it doesn't matter how they respond. It doesn't matter what they say, what they shout, what they scream, what type of show they do. No is no, and that's it. So many parents just bend.
Yeah.
They might say, no, it's just like, and it becomes bargaining. No. You do not bargain after you've made a decision. You got to recognize who's the adult. They can bargain maybe when they're teenagers, but that's when their relationship's already been developed. Your child's been developed a little bit. But I mean, it's not even developing trust. It's developing that sense of child's got to understand the authority. They're not the authority. So saying no and meaning no is very, very important. And I say this as a parent who has failed too many times to count on this.
Yes.
But I still understand it.
But that's the difference. You're still trying to do it right. And that's just as important as actually accomplishing it, is the fact that too many people nowadays, they're not trying. They're just, in all honesty, there are parents out there that aren't there are parents in name only. They're not actually parenting their kids. For all intents and purposes, some of these kids are feral.
Yeah.
They just have a roof over their head and food in their bellies, and they're given whatever it is that they're asking for, and they become so spoiled that they expect whatever they want to be handed to them. It's one of the reasons why I keep saying that a bad day is a double blessing, because the bad day shows you how to appreciate a good day when it happens. because there are just so much out there that, like I said, they expect the good to be there, to be handed over to them. They're not realizing, hey, I've got to work for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so many kids nowadays, they don't realize to get that food, you had to go and work for it. Okay. They just wake up in the morning. Oh, here's my food in front of me. Here's my clothes. Mommy's putting clothes on me. They don't. And then when they go out to stores, if they want something and they pitch enough of a fit, they get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of these kids are taken to like a preschool or kindergarten, and they have to act out to get any kind of attention there. They don't care that the attention they're getting is negative.
No, as long as it's attention, yeah.
And we've watched what happened when children who have grown up like that reach adulthood.
They become activists.
That's right. That's what how we ended up getting the Summer of Love and cities burning down and people saying, oh, it's fiery, but mostly peaceful. Let's ignore the 1,000 people who have been killed and the hundreds, and even more than that, who got crippled and maimed.
It's an unfortunate thing because it's a path to death.
Yes. That's why I keep saying hatred destroys the hater, not the hated. And if a parent isn't a good parent, that's what it's going to be. I don't know if you know who Terrence Popp is. He does the Redonkulous Regiment here on YouTube and on Rumble. And I think he's on other platforms as well. But he refers to the felony factory pipeline of single motherhood that, especially when it comes to divorce, because so many men, if the woman has cheated on the dude, she gets rewarded for it. But by the fact that divorce happens, he still has to pay alimony. He has to pay child support. He has to keep up the mortgage. He has to keep paying all this stuff, even if it means he lives out of his car and has no home anymore. He still has to make all these payments.
That's why guys don't want to get married too much.
Exactly. That's why there's so many places that people were back in the day. They said, oh, there's two types of jobs you can have that will always be there. A restaurant, because people are always going to need to eat, and people are always going to be getting married. I mean, look at all the wedding planners that have gone out of business. Look out at all the places that made wedding dresses and rented wedding tuxedos that have gone out of business over the years. Those numbers are massive. There used to be like 50 to 60 different bride magazines that was being put out every month. And that number has dropped drastically.
Yeah.
Because people aren't getting married, because guys have seen it as a racket. If you got an Audi that hangs between your legs, you're pretty much screwed when you walk into the family court, divorce court system. All it takes is the accusation that you touched your kids inappropriately while changing their nappies, and the next thing you know, you might end up in jail.
Right.
And even if it gets proven to have been a lie, the woman and her lawyer won't even get a slap on the wrist for it. And to me, that type of an accusation, even after it has been proven to be bald-faced lies, still is going to follow you for the rest of your life. Just the accusation of that will destroy you. And we have got to a point now where they're allowed to do that and get away with it. And I'm to that point to where I look at all this and I'm like, it's like the advice I've given my nephew when it comes to it. You only get married even if you know for flipping short, you got to go into it knowing this can end badly for me. And a prenup is one of those type of things that I think is going to have to become mandatory. It's just like how several states are now making it mandatory for DNA testing before you sign the birth certificate has to prove the DNA test has to prove you are the father of that child.
You are the father, Harvey.
Yes. And because paternity fraud has become such a massive problem in the country. I mean, I don't know how many tests and things that they have done where the blood banks and stuff have been sitting there reporting that the numbers of the blood tests that they've had to do to give blood for a father to give blood to his kid that they have to run. It's like 3/4 of the time it's not his kid. And
what does that say about the woman?
Exactly. And it's one of those things that pisses me off more than anything else is that the rules have changed to a point to where it doesn't matter what she does. She can get away with it. The laws have come to a point to where the guy is screwed no matter what happens.
It's restrictive. Although I'll say that sometimes there are exceptions. I mean, and I can think of two anecdotal examples, of course. But I have one of my best friends is going through a situation like you're describing, to where his wife, accused him of things, and it was actually, and it was over their daughter. That they had, and he has basically full custody of her now by some miracle. He has her, but I mean, he was accused of things, and it turned out actually it was her boyfriend / whoever she's with now that was causing those issues, unfortunately. So now he has to deal with therapy and stuff, for her, and her, and her development and everything. And I mean, he's a good man. He's a good dad. But it's just, it's pretty awful, that situation. And he tells me, he's like, Ryan, I have no idea how I was able to do this in the courts. I walked in the courtroom and I prayed, and somehow it was given to me. He's like, he thanks God, every day for it, because he's like, if it wasn't for God,
that's a miracle, man. Because I do know one person in my life that we've talked about this before, and she was talking about the fact that she's the one that got hosed over. And because the guy was the one that did all the bad stuff, and she got hosed over. And it's
this is the other example I would give of the two too. I've mentioned this before on Friday Night Frolics, like over a year ago, to where me and my wife, we traveled, let's just say near DC, to where we're living in Kentucky. We traveled there to bring a woman and her child back here so she could start a new life here. And she still had to drive back and forth to the quote unquote DC area. And her now ex-husband, and basically his parents too, she underwent years and years of abuse with this man and this family. And I would call this family an extreme religious right. And I don't say that lightly, because I don't believe in that so much, but this is the case for these people. They're completely out of their minds. And the justice system, unfortunately, because these people were, natural born Americans, and the woman we were helping was immigrated from Peru. And so she was a foreigner, and especially in that area of the country, the court system, I don't think, looks favorably when your skin's a different color, unfortunately. So she was given, I'll just say this, if it wasn't for the fact, and this will be an update for the Friday Night Frolics community, because they've heard this story before, practically, when I've told Our Lord DVD about this. if it wasn't for us assisting her, she wouldn't have gotten. It was the decision came out like 55 to 45 for her, so she got primary custody, but he still gets the daughter a lot, unfortunately. And I'm sure the courts would have done anything to give him everything, and there were political things too involved in this as well. I mean, their lawyer, or actually they went through a bunch of lawyers because they had a really dishonest case. But their last lawyer was basically an ex state senator or congressperson, and it was a mess. But just for the fact that she stayed strong, she had a good lawyer that stuck to his guns most of the time. We're still in this place to where now the divorce has ended. Basically, she's really getting nothing from him. I mean, he's paying child support, but I mean, he was allowed to lie through the whole process. Even in discovery, he didn't reveal his entire assets, and the court didn't push it any further. This is a family that's full of fraudulent practices. If you would dig deep enough, unfortunately, the court isn't there to decide that. And it was just a big mess. And I know everybody who's watching we're talking about RPGs now, but I guess we're talking about life at this moment. But and we only got involved. I mean, we got pretty involved with this situation, but only to the point to where it's just like, look, we can only do so much. Unfortunately, the child of this woman, I mean, did interact with my son, and there was unfortunate repercussions for us allowing that to happen. And that's as far as I'll go with that. But you still don't regret, because we kind of anticipated that things like that might happen. When you risk helping somebody, sometimes you got to take those risks, and they sometimes end up coming true. But at the same time, she's still, now fully divorced from this guy. This guy has to still bend backwards, no matter what, to upkeep, like still trying to take care of his child, within this state that we're in, and not the state that he was living in. So it's still a big headache. I'm glad I could cause it to trash like that, or help assist, to cause it trash. I mean, this was primarily my wife's decision. I'm just basically, babe, I back you up. I'm like, if you want to help, and even if we have to give up time and peace for some of this, it's the right thing to do. So yeah, behind you 100%. And so right now, there's a place to where she's just trying to work as much as she can to support her child, and then try to, it's basically grunt work, but trying to advance to where she can get more of education. I mean, she is a citizen now of the United States, so she's got all the rights with that. As much as that family was trying to take that away from her, it's a really terrible story. But I guess the major point is the fact that the legal system failed her terribly. Just failed her terribly. And so I understand what you're saying, that most of the time it's the guys that get the bad rap. I get it. But there's also through the cracks. I mean, there's discrimination on so many levels when it comes
it's like
to
I've
that.
said before, there is no one size fits all.
Right.
There's always somebody who's going to fall through the cracks. And that's why the safety net was supposed to be there, was to catch the people who fall through the cracks. The problem is we've allowed that safety net to become a hammock in many cases. We've ignored the people who have gotten destroyed by a broken system. We started talking about role-playing games, but we're now talking about some real life stuff, because anybody who's existed for a while has seen this stuff happening in real life. To me, role-playing has helped people that's been in these situations. It's helped them be able to work it out.
Right.
And because the pain of not being able to see your kids, that's a pain I've had to live with for well over 15 years.
Sure.
When Zachary called me, I cried for 3 days. I still will break down into tears over it because of how happy I was that my son called me and how much it hurts not to have had him in my life. Because there's a lot of stuff I wanted to teach him while he was growing up. I wanted to be there for all the first that I had wished my dad had been there for, but he was always out doing stuff in the community. He was building the Hickory Nut Gorge EMS. He was building a volunteer fire department. He was working as a volunteer auxiliary police officer. He was helping people that really needed it, but he was never there. My mom once told me that she was grateful when I was going to school that I really didn't have any after school activities to do because she knew how much it would have broke my heart that dad didn't show up. Because the one time I did an extra curricular activity at school was when I took German in my freshman year, and the homecoming parade come up because homecoming was a big deal. My mom taught me how to dance. Okay, she taught me how to do the twist. She taught me how to shag, and I don't mean the British shag people. I'm talking the dance style. Okay, get your minds out of the gutter. It's too crowded down here, and I need some elbow room. You perverts! God. But anyway, she taught me all the different dance styles from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. She even tried teaching me how to disco. And she said, the only reason why I'm teaching you how to do this is the fact that we saw this on TV when we watched Saturday Night Live and John Travolta. And I'm like, okay. But I also learned how to do ballroom dancing. There's several types of ballroom dance that I was really good at. My German teacher freaked out over the fact that I learned how to do all the different types of waltzes, especially the one that was in A Sound of Music, which was this extremely formal German waltz. I could dance it I don't know if I could dance it today with the way my legs are, but I still remember the steps and how to do it. And we would do these dances and do these traditional German dances during the parade. And Dad promised he would be there for the parade, but he never showed up. And my mom said the whole time she was watching me throughout the parade, looking for my dad the whole time. And at the end of the parade, I was expecting Dad to be there with her by the car waiting for me because it was her and my little sister and my baby sister waiting. And I was expecting to see Dad's green truck with the big emergency gumballs on the top of it with the speaker system and everything. That if you were in desperate need up there in the mountains around Lake Lure and you saw that green truck coming, you knew your chances of survival just went up 100%.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Richard, but I do have to get going. Actually, I got to put my kid to bed soon. I hate to interrupt you, but
it's all right. But like I said, that was, if you can be there for your kids, that's just as important as doing your job. Because guess what? It is your job. Your children are just as important as going to a job and working 40 to 60 hours a week. It's just as important as helping the community. Because, yes, I learned from watching my dad what it means to be kind and be compassionate and care about your community and fight for it. But I also remember being that little kid and being brokenhearted because my dad was never there for any of the things I did. And it wasn't until much later in his life that he started putting us ahead of everybody else. So I'm not saying ignore helping others, but I am saying treat your kids like gold because that's what they are. They're the future. Teach them how to role play. Teach them how to have fun.
For sure.
Teach them these things. Show them the consequences of actions. Show them how to be honest, even when it's going to make them look bad. Teach them how to be brave, how to be strong and secure. That's what you can do with role playing, boys and girls. And I will say that even to somebody who's in their 90s, you still are learning. And until you stop learning, you only do that after you die, kids. And that's when you're no longer a kid. You don't want that. Trust me, I know. I've been there. I've done that. They just didn't give me a t-shirt for it. But thank you guys for having shown up for my show today. It was an impromptu thing. And so please, we've been doing this for almost 3 hours. Just a general talk about role-playing games and what it means. We got a little serious, but for the most part, we all still have a smile on our faces, and we're talking about the things we love. Because guess what? Love never fails. It is eternal. Share it. Share what you love with your friends, your family, and even strangers. Because who knows? That stranger just might be a friend you've not made yet. So go out there, embrace life, and know you're loved. Hopefully, we'll get to be doing this again soon. Have a good time. Give Jose a hug. Give your wife a hug.
Yes, sir.
Tell them that they're loved.
For sure, man. Yeah. Hopefully,
Anything,
talk to you soon. Yeah.
anything
Go
you
ahead.
want to share with anybody?
My main YouTube channel is Tales of Valhalla, as well as Tales of the Void. And although I'm known as our Madman 4, it's actually biblical. That name right there. But I'm known in the sphere of my main YouTube channels as Tales because of the stories that I stop motion animate and tell. So yeah, check out those YouTube channels. Tales of Valhalla.
Send me the link so I can post it in the chat.
And Tales of is there gonna do that? Let me see.
Because I want to send people to your link.
This okay. I'm just gonna here. That one's important. You go there, then you can find the other one too.
All right, sweet. But like I said, let's anybody that wants to come on here and enjoy the chats and go check out our Madman's page of Tales from Valhalla or of Valhalla. We're here to have fun. We're here to talk about the things we love. Share the love, guys, because that's where our fandom comes from. Fandom comes from loving something. And by sharing that love with others, we prove to the world we're not haters. We're human beings. And tell people you love them because it's true. We're all loved. Y'all be good now and be blessed.